My paper today is called Linguistic Hybridity, a corpus-based analysis of Rushdie's Midnight Children. Some research aims and objective of linguistic hybridity in Rushdie's novel Colonial Identity Construction, then to analyze the translation challenges that may arise from Rushdie's multilingual hybridity for contemporary post-colonial translation theory and practice, of course. Then we have our research questions. The first one investigates the role of linguistic hybridity in Midnight's Children. Then, sorry. So the first one asks how does Rushdie's linguistic hybridity shape readers' interpretation? And of course, we have hegemony of standard English by embedding Indian linguistic rhythms and idioms, altogether leading to cultural multiplicity. And this multiplicity resonates with cultural familiarity for monolingual Western readers, of course. The second question would be, what translation challenges arise from Rushdie's multilingual features? And translators face the impossible task of preserving not only semantic meaning, but also the cultural texture of the prose, the tonal interplay between register, the embedded humor, and the musicality of code switching. And the third one, how might translator preserve cultural specificity without sacrificing readability? Well, following theories such as Venuti, Basnet, and Rivendi, we argue that the goal should not be domestication, but cultural mediation and the retention of otherness through strategies like creative equivalence, retention of vernacular items, and judicious use of paratextual framing are of great importance. Obviously, our research is founded on a theoretical framework. We have analyzed Jacobson's classic distinction between intralingual, interlingual, and intersemiotic translation, who provides the foundational vocabulary. Then Zepson work, which expands this concept, emphasizing intralingual translation as a process of paraphrasing and recontextualization within the same language. And further, scholars such as Mossop Wyatt and Hill Madsen reconceptualize translation as cultural mediation and intercultural communication, focusing on the translator's role as a negotiator of cultural meaning. So taken all these together, these framework enable a view of translation not as mere linguistic substitution, but as an interpretive act embedded in social, cultural, and ideological systems. My corpus includes 1,886 multilingual terms from Midnight's Children. You have here the categories. So we have 64% of Urdu words, Hindi 26%, Indian 6%, Pakistani words 2%, whereas the categorized fall under 2%. And most items are names and culturally marked expressions. I have placed them in this chart just to show the linguistic distribution. And this slide shows also the approximate number of words found in the English novel. As you can see, we have almost over 1,200 words whereas in quite less. Okay, we have top lexical words here. We have Urdu, Hindi words which demonstrate polyphony and cultural coexistence. As we can see, we have Aziz occurrences 230 times, whereas Padma 218 words, Salim 206 occurrences, and so on and so forth. Then we have another chart also showing occurrences. This time they are, just a second, because I cannot see the screen very well due to the Zoom application, so I'm not able to see the entire slide. I don't know whether you can help me. Okay. Okay, so top 5 Urdu words. Here we are. Shahid, Ayuba, Adam, Salim, and Aziz. Of course, they are very often met during the novel because they have a special significance. Then we have linguistic hybridity. So a point with postcolonial discourse, linguistic hybridity refers to the blending of languages, dialects, and idioms in order to reflect cultural multiplicity. In Midnight Children, Rushdie fuses English with Hindu, Urdu, and regional vernaculars, creating a linguistic mosaic that mirrors India's plurality and, in fact, plural identities. And this hybridity functions as an act of linguistic resistance, destabilizing colonial linguistic hierarchies, and asserting a new form of English, often termed Indo-English. Translation in this context extends beyond interlingual transfer. In Rushdie's work, translation is not confined to movement between languages. It occurs within English itself. The novel translates Indian realities into global English while simultaneously resisting assimilation into a purely Western mode of storytelling. For the translator, this creates a dilemma. The more one smooths out the cultural strangeness, the more one risks raising the post-colonial politics embedded in the text. And following Basnet and Trivendi, we try to see translation as a site of negotiation, not merely translation. So we are somewhere between readability and authenticity, between foreignness and accessibility. So in this case, translation becomes, of course, an ethical act. It either sustains or silences differences. In Rushdie, we deal with intralingual translation and interlingual translation. So the first one functions as an internal process of meaning negotiation, as I say, and positions native English readers as active interpreters compelled to navigate the hybridity of idioms and the rhythms and references. As I said, in rendering Rushdie's works into other languages, translators face the dual task of preserving textual fidelity while achieving cultural intelligibility for the target audience. The Romanian translation of Rushdie's novel must grapple with how to replicate his hybrid register, blend of English, Hindi, and Urdu words without erasing its post-colonial texture. The Romanian translator who dealt with Salman Rushdie was Radu Paraschivescu, the only one who successfully translated him. And there is also their literal translation, cultural translation, all together with these two concepts, interlingual and intralingual. So we have also some shifts in linguistic hybridity across the novel. In the early chapters, we see the dominance made by Urdu familial vocabulary, kinship terms reflecting intimacy, domesticity, and cultural identity heritage. Whereas the middle section incorporates a growing number of cultural and religious expressions, signaling the characters' negotiation altogether with their faith, tradition, or communal belongings. Whereas the final section is characterized by Hindi and other Indian politically and military terminology because it mirrors the transition from the personal life into the social life that is the real birth of a nation, India. We have here some examples. The first one, Shahid, is an intralingual adaptation. So it means a martyr, and it carries connotations of sacrifice, sacred sacrifice, rooted in Islamic spiritual tradition. Yet in English, it conveys political heroism, but lacks the metaphysical dimension inherent in Shahid. So this is somehow a form of semantic resistance. Then we have the word salam. That's an intralingual adaptation. This is an Urdu and Arabic greeting meaning peace. Rendering it as hello would erase its spiritual and communal resonance. So in Midnight Children, salam functions not merely as a greeting, but as a performative invocation of respect and religious identity. Then we have Padma. That's also an interlingual adaptation. When Rushdie's novel is translated into Romanian, terms like Padma illustrates interlingual adaptation. So Padma means lotus, and it symbolizes purity and the renewal of of the Indian culture. As a parenthesis here, the Romanian translator translated it into Floarea mea de lotus, also adding some explanation in order to briefly symbolize this important word in Rushdie's novel. So such mediation demonstrates that interlingual translation must operate not as substitution, but as interpretive supplementation. And of course, we have some conclusions. We may all reach the conclusion that Midnight Children redefines the boundaries of English literature by transforming it into a transcultural medium, one capable of expressing multiple identities, voices, or why not histories. Translation in this context is not a derivative act, but a creative and interpretive practice. Whether intralingual or interlingual, it mediates between linguistic systems, cultural imageries, and epistemological frameworks. And Rushdie's work teaches us, or somehow reminds us, that translation is not about achieving equivalence, but about sustaining dialogue between languages, cultures, and why not between histories. It is through this dialogue that postcolonial identity is continually negotiated and reimagined. Part of the works I used as references, and of course, a beautiful image from Rushdie's Midnight Children and the Birth of a New Nation. Thank you very much for your attention and time.